Good evening, everyone. Please be seated. Okay, can I firstly welcome everybody to tonight's meeting. It's obviously one of the most important meetings of the year for the council. I'd therefore just have a couple of points to make. Firstly, the audio in here, as we all know, is pretty poor, so I'm trying my best now to speak into the mic. Apparently they are directional, so please make every effort to speak into the microphone so people can clearly hear what everybody's saying. Can I also ask that obviously it's important that everybody who wishes to speak makes their points clearly and politely to one another. It's a very important meeting. The residents are all watching and all waiting for the results of this, so can I ask for the best behaviour on tonight's meeting. So after that, if we move to item 1, which is apologies. I have received apologies from councillors Andrew Sprowett, Linda Bell, Julie Day, Claire McGinty, Lewis Bartoli and Liz McMullen. Are there any further apologies? Yes. Well signified there. Oh, it's okay. Is there any further ones? Okay, on to item 2, and we have declarations of interest and dispensations. The monitoring officer has written to all members to set out the position with regard to interests in this meeting of the authority that will deal with the budget proposals. This is in addition to the training and code of conduct and specifically declarations of interest that have been provided to all members at the beginning of their term of office or of the start of the municipal year. In addition, where requested, advice has also been provided to individual members on interests in this meeting of the authority that deal with the budget proposals. In relation to the registrable personal interests held where a member has been appointed by the authority to an outside body or bodies, dispensations have been granted to allow them to participate and vote in tonight's meeting. In relation to that registrable personal interest, and their membership of that body, where members have been granted such dispensations, they are not required to declare these dispensations or personal interests or grant of dispensation at this meeting. A list of the appointments of to the outside bodies and dispensations granted to members in respect of these appointments has been sent to all members. Are there any other members who had any other registrable interests to declare to this meeting, please? Okay, but we'll start from the front on the left.
Thanks, Chair. I'd like to declare that I'm a trustee of North Tyneside Carer Centre that receives funding from the council. I don't receive any direct payment myself, so I won't be leaving.
Yep. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I declare an interest in item 3. I am an unpaid director of Justice Prince and Chief Officer. The organisation receives funding and contracts with North Tyneside Council, and I will be leaving the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor Cruddas.
Thank you, Chair. Again, also an unpaid director of Justice Prince Community Interest Company, agenda item 3, and we have a number of contracts with North Tyneside Council.
Thank you.
My brother-in-law is a company director of Parkside Care Limited, who have contracts with North Tyneside Council to provide adult social care. So on legal advice, I'll be leaving the meeting.
Anybody else?
I have a family member that works for the authority.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Shaw.
My husband works for Monk Seaton High School.
Sorry, can you just repeat that, please?
My husband works for Monk Seaton High School.
Thank you. And work our way back along the line now. Is there anybody else? Oh, Councillor Harrison.
Yes, Chair. As a resident of North Tyneside, I have paid my council tax and are eligible to take part and vote at this meeting.
Thank you for that. Councillor Drummond.
Thanks, Chair. However, we have fire and rescue service who receive a council precept for and have contracts with North Tyneside Council. My wife works at North Tyneside Citizens Advice Bureau, and I'm also on the board of trustees.
Thank you, Councillor Drummond.
A member of my family works for North Tyneside Council.
Councillor McVenna.
After a lot of research, I found out that there is one of my members actually works for North Tyneside Council. Don't have any financial situation with him. He doesn't pay us anything or anything like that. In fact, he avoids us like the plague.
Thank you. Are there any further interest on this side? Yes.
I'm a member of North Tyneside Together and Culture and Diversity, but I don't have a contract, so I would not be leaving the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Brian?
As a spoken to Karen and Director CEO Justice Prince, obviously I have to declare an interest, so I'll be leaving the room too.
Okay, any further interest on that side of the chamber? Anyone? Councillor Bones?
Thank you, Chair. I have a registrable interest as an unpaid director of Pathways for All, which receives funding from the council and is a tenant of the council. And I also have a non-registrable interest in that a family member works for the authority.
Thank you, Councillor Bones. Councillor Scargill?
Thank you. I've got a registrable interest as a director of Pathways for All, as an unpaid director, which receives funding from North Tyneside Council and is a tenant of North Tyneside Council.
Okay, thank you for that. Any further interests? So we'll now move on to item 3. At this meeting of the council. Oh, sorry. Okay. At this meeting, Council will consider the Cabinet's proposals in relation to the General Fund budget and resultant estimates of the amounts for the Council tax requirements. I will first of all request Councillor Andy McMullen to move the Cabinet's proposals. Once those proposals are seconded, I will invite members to ask questions relating only to matters of principle. Once any relevant questions have been asked and answered, I will invite members to debate Cabinet's budget proposals. Councillor McMullen will have the right to reply at the end of the debate. I will again remind members that regulations are in force requiring local authorities immediately after any vote is taken at a budget decision meeting of the Council to record in the minutes of the proceedings the names of the persons who cast a vote for the decision or against the decision, or who abstained from voting. This requirement will be facilitated by use of the electronic voting system. I will now ask Councillor McMullen to move the Cabinet's proposals.
Thank you, Chair. Following the approval by Cabinet on the 3rd of February, I am now happy to present the 2025-26 budget proposals to Council for the General Fund, and the Council will be aware that the Housing Revenue Account budget was approved by Cabinet last month. I hope that this debate will be a positive one and celebrating the success that the Council has had over the past decade and our ambitious plans for the future. This year is the final year of the Our North Tyneside Plan, which set out our priorities for the borough from 2021 to 2025. We are proud of what we've achieved since 2021. The borough is safer, cleaner and greener. Many areas have seen regeneration and investment, with the transformation evident in Whitley Bay, Wallsend and North Shields, and beginning in the Northwest. Our residents are supported when they need us most. The quality of education in our schools remains high, and our children's services have recently been judged as outstanding once again. We are only one of 5 local authorities in the country to be outstanding in all areas. And despite being the second lowest spending authority on children's services in the region. This is a testament to the dedication by all to achieve the best outcomes for our youngest residents. We are building hundreds of new affordable homes, continuing to invest additional funding to repair our roads and paths. In November, we presented our initial budget proposals for 25-26, which would allow us to carry on with our ambition and momentum, making the most of external funding to do so. But those initial proposals forecasted an extra £33 million of the pressure on our funds. This mainly through unprecedented demand on our children's services and a challenge felt by all others in children's services, both regionally and nationally. As a result of this, and despite significant savings actions already taken, November's budget proposals include a £3.9 million shortfall for the next year. However, I'm pleased to say that funding adjustments and more efficiencies identified, we are now in a position to present a balanced budget for 25-26. The proposals have been updated to reflect a welcoming increase in funding from the Provisional Local Government Settlement in December, particularly for social care. Furthermore, the government has started to shift the allocation of funding to areas that need it most. The proposals also reflect additional challenges posed by the autumn statement around our own national insurance contributions. Those proposals identify additional savings and efficiencies to help address challenges in social care. This includes additional funds to help provide extra care homes in the borough, extra children's care homes in the borough, helping to reduce our reliance on costly external providers to meet our needs of some of our children. Cabinet will also know that despite Ofsted's recognition of outstanding leadership in children's services and in doubling our in-house provision, the pressure continues, and therefore this children's home investment is a pragmatic move. Our proposals also include funding a feasibility study for the Household Waste Recycling Centre in the North West, as we continue to respond to reforms within the sector and ensure our waste is disposed of responsibly. However, some of the difficult decisions have been made in order to reach this balanced budget. One of those is confirm the council tax in social care precept will increase by 4.99%. This is something the government expects us to do, and the £7 million this brings in is necessary in meeting the increased cost of services we continue to provide. It is important to note the additional local council tax support scheme will continue next year, cutting bills for thousands of low-income households. And as a financially responsible council, we strive to offer value for money. Our approach to budget and expense beyond the current financial year. We forecast a pressure of £85 million over the next 4 years, up to 2029, if we take no action. But we have a 4-year transformation programme to tackle this through savings and efficiencies. We've saved £10 million this year and projecting to save another £31 million over the next 4 years. We've seen the importance of holding an appropriate level of reserves, and sadly, what happens in local authorities who do not. Our budget proposals do not rely upon the use of the strategic balance and reserve do not rely upon our strategic reserve to balance our short-term delivery plans. Instead, they seek to replenish our strategic reserve over the medium term to help improve our resilience. We are proud to be a council that listens to our tenants, residents, businesses and stakeholders. We give them opportunities to have their say throughout the year, including engaging with the Mayor, Cabinet and ward members, our residents panels and the big community conversation. We also carried out extensive budget consultation in person and online, and these residents told us that they understand the challenges we face as an authority. They were supportive of the approach that we've taken to identify savings. They support our willingness to continue to aid both our residents and our businesses through these times of change. Working with Mayor Redfern, this group understands the need for residents of North Tyneside, which means we have to make the decisions to deliver on these, either by having costed, impact assessed and deliverable proposals, or taking the difficult decisions needed to deliver these services that our people need. It's a shame to see that despite much claim of projects and schemes the opposition wish to back, they have not bothered to prepare a budget to support how they would deliver these plans. People I've spoken to and across the literature I've read outside this chamber, I've seen the opposition make some mighty commitments, sitting at a figure of over £100 million worth of commitments. Whereas the transparency that they're always championing, whereas the demonstration that they can understand how to financially run a council. But enough of talking about that then and that, let's focus on what we can deliver with a fully costed, robustly challenged and impact assessed budget. which fully complies with the local government financial standards. And despite the challenges we face, we are an ambitious council. This budget proposes to continue investing wisely in all four corners of the borough. In line with our priorities, we are proud of our strong track record in securing external funding and will continue to proactively seek external funding opportunities using the money to maximum effect. Within our investment plan, we continue to plan to invest over £344 million in improving our borough, improving our roads, schools, buildings, and ensuring that the infrastructure is in place to deliver the services effectively and efficiently. We will work hard to secure investment, and with over £82 million, or 53% of our general fund investment plan, paid for by external grants and contributions. In summary, whilst we continue to face immense pressure and challenges, we have developed a responsible budget which will continue to deliver on our priorities, fully aligned to the Our North Tyneside plan, which achieves a balanced position, and the challenges will undoubtedly continue, but we will continue to ensure our resources are used in the most effective way for our residents. I commend this budget to Council and reserve the right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor McMullen. Can I just point out before we go any further that yourself and Councillor Scargill aren't sitting in the correct seats, so you will have to be sitting in your correct seats before we take a vote.
I understand.
You don't have to move now, but make sure you're in the right seat by then. Okay, thank you for that, Councillor McMullen. Councillor Carl Johnson, I believe you're seconding the motion. Do you wish to speak now or reserve?
Reserve the right, please.
Reserve the right. Okay. I now move on to questions, and I'll invite questions from members of the council on the Cabinet's proposals. Members are reminded that they have already had the opportunity to raise questions of a technical nature with officers in advance of the meeting. Can I therefore remind you that the questions you should only be related to matters of principle, and repetitious questions should be avoided where possible. Is anybody wishing to ask any questions? Okay, Councillor John Johnson.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor McMullen, for your presentation. I'd like to ask, when the Prime Minister said he would freeze council tax in the first year of a Labour government, was he lying?
I'm sorry, but he's not available to speak to at this moment in time in this chamber.
Okay, Councillor J. Bartoli.
Thank you, Chair. Can the Mayor confirm there is no money in this budget for additional CCTV in our town centres, metro barriers at ticket stations to tackle antisocial behaviour?
Well, what I would love to say is we have a massive transformation plan of CCTV with a contract that's going out of tender. Well, actually, it's already gone out of tender, and we're about to sign, which will completely change our CCTV network, increasing more cameras, better coverage, and actually work better with our partners. So thank you very much for bringing that up.
Councillor Carl Johnson.
Yeah, I get to answer the question as well. I know Councillor Bartoli's new to this council, so I forgive him for not understanding what's the council's responsibility. The regional mayor is responsible for barriers and not in this budget. So I know you're new here, but it's not our responsibility. It is the Regional Transport Authority, not ours.
Okay, Councillor Lilly.
Thank you, Chair. Could the Cabinet member confirm that the Chancellor has fulfilled their promise to fully compensate councils for any increase in employer national insurance contributions they're going to have to pay as a result of her tax increase?
We await the final results coming in, but we thought it prudent to make sure there was an extra fund there to cover in the event that it wasn't made.
So she hasn't fulfilled that promise. So therefore, the council is having to set aside £750,000 contingency. Why should residents of North Tyneside have to pay for this government's tax grab?
It's a prudent approach to actually put money to one side if you think there may be a risk, and that's what we've done.
So, Carl Johnson,
I'm sure Councillor Lee knows that the Conservative government left office with the highest tax since the Great Depression when they were in government, Chair.
Sorry, Chair, I didn't ask the question to Councillor Johnson, so he shouldn't be answering my questions. My question was to Cabinet member.
The entire Cabinet can answer questions on the Mayor's budget proposals.
Okay, Councillor, are you finished your questions, Councillor Lilly?
I'll just have one more. In ring fencing this £750,000 then for this tax hike, which services have you had to cut back?
None.
Councillor,
Sorry, I said none.
Councillor Scargill.
Yeah, firstly, Councillor Johnson, I think it was unnecessarily patronising to mention about how new members are. Councillor Bartoli has been elected as any one of us has and has got a right to ask questions about the budget here. Anyhow, does the Mayor agree, given we are spending at least £750,000 on national insurance hikes and have already spent over £1.25 million on winter fuel payments, this council would be £2 million richer if the Conservatives were still in power nationally?
The Conservatives cut £500 million from this council's budget during their time in office. So no matter what, if the Conservatives were in power, we'd be poorer. Every resident in this borough is poorer as a result of the Conservative government, Chair.
Councillor Bones, I believe. Have you finished, Councillor Scargill? Is that it? No, Councillor Bones.
Thank you, Chair. Given that last winter the Cabinet, following calls from the opposition, felt it was appropriate to step in and provide winter fuel payments for pensioners to get them through the winter, can the Cabinet member confirm whether those payments are included in next year's budget and our pensioners will receive those next winter?
Definitely wasn't following calls from the opposition, Chair. We will look after all residents in our borough, and we did so to try and protect residents from a cut to the winter fuel loans. Unlike the opposition over there, we've been very clear we'll stand up to our government every time for the residents of this borough. As Councillor Bones should know, that was paid, the winter fuel allowance voucher was paid for as a bit between the Poverty Intervention Fund and the government grant. So we will always look to continue that next year, absolutely.
Any further questions from members? Oh, Councillor Wallace, sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to ask the Cabinet member, what is the policy with regard to reserves and specifically the strategic reserve?
As part of this budget, we are seeking to replenish the strategic reserve back to the numbers that are within our Treasury plan.
The policy, as I understand it, is that the strategic reserve should not drop below £10 million. Does the Cabinet agree that they've already breached that because it only stands at £8.5 million now?
Yeah, I said that's as part of the plan to replenish that back up to the £10 million number that is within our documentation.
Chairman, I wonder if the Cabinet member could explain how this replenishment is likely to take place in practice, given that in the papers before us, it says that the planned usage of reserves does not incorporate the likely usage of the strategic reserve to support the current year's in-year pressures. And the budget currently is almost £9 million overspent. So how in practical terms is the strategic reserve going to be returned to £10 million?
Throughout the whole of our plan, that we have a bunch of different transformation projects that we'll be looking to accelerate to make sure that balance comes back in, such as the building of the children's homes, which will significantly reduce our children's spending.
Chairman, in the papers, it says that the level of reserves is of concern, that's the word, of concern to the Council's Director of Resources. Does the Cabinet member share that concern?
That's why we're having a transformation project to get all those numbers back to the healthy reserve of £10 million, which is what this budget delivers.
We'll wait and see, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace. Councillor Scargill.
Thank you. Can I ask the Mayor who she thinks is more deserving of taxpayers' money, hardworking local people in New York or Mauritius?
As always, the good folk of North Tyneside will relentlessly be the focus of this council.
Okay, are there any further questions on the? We now move to debate the issues, and I now would invite members to debate on the Cabinet budget proposals. Like Councillor Bones.
Thank you, Chair. Tonight we will be voting against this Labour budget. It hikes council tax by the legal maximum while giving our residents little in return. Our roads and pavements are crumbling, yet Labour has frozen the repairs budget once again. Antisocial behaviour is rife in our town centres, but there's not a single extra penny for CCTV. So what is this Labour administration spending our money on? The chauffeur-driven car? Protected. Councillors' expenses? Protected. And hard-working residents are being asked to foot the bill. But the most disgraceful part of this budget is the lie at the very heart of it. Before Labour got into government, they promised to freeze council tax in their first year. Many of the councillors opposite put this promise in their own leaflets. Keir Starmer himself told the country again and again that council tax would be frozen. He lied. And tonight, Labour councillors are voting to break the promise that they made to our residents. This is the same shameless Labour Party that ripped away the winter fuel payment from pensioners, the same Labour Party that promised councils would be better off under them, only to squeeze local budgets with their national insurance hikes. North Tyneside needs change. Residents are crying out for it. But this budget is the swan song of this failed Labour administration. And in May, when this nightmare is over, the people of North Tyneside will finally get the real change that they need. The party opposite will crow tonight that no objection has been submitted. But let's be honest, the only reason they're so upset is that they don't know where they're going to steal their next policy from. Time and time again, they've nicked our ideas from 100 new bins to a new tip in the Northwest because they've run out of their own. We all know the truth. This tired administration is out of ideas and out of time. We won't be supporting this budget. Thank you.
Councillor Bones. Councillor Frank Lott.
Thank you, Chair. I couldn't possibly follow that. I deal in truths. As this report indicates, local authorities across the country have experienced significant financial uncertainty and challenges.
complacent and you're hopefully out of time. Only members on this side of the chamber will protect our pensioners, and we will not be supporting this budget.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Is there any other members wish to speak on the motion? Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Chairman. I oppose this budget with its further increases in council tax. As always, I think savings could have been made, for example, with the trade union facility time and communications, and there should be better and prompter use of the Section 106 money. For many years, Labour in this council has blamed the government for the state of the council finances, whether it be the coalition government or the Conservative government. They've always asserted that all would change with the Labour government. It all would change for the better, they said. But we're now in those halcyon days, and things are actually worse. Notably, the government has imposed increases in employers' national insurance. There's been a bureaucratic shifting of taxpayers' money between the pots, but the net result is that this council is some £750,000 worse off, and a contingency's had to be set up. And that's without taking note of the effect of the extra tax upon the council suppliers, notably the care providers. It's definitely had a detrimental effect upon the housing revenue account as well. The Chancellor, Rachel from Sales, has thus far given a dire performance. She's settled public sector claims without any productivity improvements. And despite claims of shortage of money, there's cash for the appalling decision to give away the Chagos Islands to a hostile country and pay them £9 billion into the bargain. We have a Prime Minister who, like Jeremy Corbyn, appears happy to support any anti-British cause that comes along. To put that £9 billion into context, Labour claimed that putting VAT on school fees, extending inheritance tax on farms, and scrapping the winter fuel allowances for our pensioners would save £3.9 billion. So how come that they can find £9 billion to give away strategically important territory and yet impose extra national insurance tax on this council? I'll be opposing the budget.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace. Councillor J. Bartoli.
Thank you, Chair. The budget that the Labour group has proposed has many issues. However, one of the biggest for my residents has been ignored. This budget fails to tackle crime and antisocial behaviour, particularly the alarming rise in shoplifting, an issue the Labour candidate for mayor thinks isn't an issue. In December 2024 alone, North Shields saw 62 shoplifting incidents. Across the North East, shoplifting offences rose by 12.8% over the year, reaching approximately 29,600 incidents. That's an annual rate of 12.9 shoplifting crimes per 1,000 people, 152% higher than the national average. Shockingly, shoplifting now accounts for over 10% of all reported crimes in our region. Despite this, our local Labour Party refuses to invest in practical solutions like CCTV, better lighting, or even drone technology to support our struggling shops and businesses. Instead, they continue to prop up the failing Police and Crime Commissioner, who has overseen this surge in crime while hitting residents with a 7.7% council tax increase. And what are we getting from this tax hike? Nothing. This is the same Police and Crime Commissioner who was just appointed deputy at a cost of £65,000. Is that what extra council tax will be paying for? Or why Rachel Reeves' national insurance hike puts police numbers overall at risk? This isn't the change our residents voted for. It's more of the same from a tired Labour Party. I won't be supporting this budget tonight. I'll sleep easy knowing I stood up for my residents against Labour's council tax hike. I hope councillors across the chamber will join me in voting against this budget.
Thank you, Councillor Bartoli. Councillor Lilly, I believe you signified.
Thank you, Chair. We are presented this evening, Chair, with a budget shaped by false promises nationally and mismanagement and inefficiency locally. I will freeze council tax. There will be no increase in council tax. These promises made by Keir Starmer on the campaign trail were immediately ditched by him, thus allowing for above inflation council tax increases. As a result of him reneging on his promises, this council has proposed an above inflation increase in council tax. Included in this rise is the increase in the precept imposed by the Labour Police and Crime Commissioner, which at 7.7% is roughly 3 times the rate of inflation. This at a time when she is employing a deputy on over £65,000 a year, someone her predecessor did not need, whilst at the same time looking to shed frontline officers. I will not increase taxes on working people, promised Rachel Reeves, who is in charge of the nation's finances, but cannot accurately complete a CV. She promptly broke this promise when she increased employers' national insurance contributions by 2%, thus penalising the working self-employed in this borough. However, this has now become a tax on every resident in North Tyneside, as over £750,000 of our money has been diverted from essential services to pay for the council's increasing employers' national insurance contribution bill. This administration has mismanaged this year's budget to such an extent that there will be nearly a £9 million deficit. And as usual, when Labour messes up, it is the vulnerable who suffer. A major cut in this budget is the 33% reduction in the recipients of homeschool transport assistance. Pupils attending alternative education provision will only have access to transport provision the start and the end of the school day. Parents and carers will be required to make alternative arrangements at a cost to them if children can only manage a part day attendance. At the moment, the authority provides fully funded transport for post-16 young people with educational healthcare plans. This is now being replaced by a travel contribution of £672 per academic year, equivalent to 50% of an annual all-zone Nexus Network 1 anytime ticket. This still leaves families with increased costs to finance the other 50% payment for this ticket, yet again putting more financial pressure on parents and carers. 16+ mainstream students are currently offered 50% of their travel costs. This budget withdraws this offer. Once again, families and carers faced with increased costs to enable post-16 education to continue. These proposals, especially for post-16 education, will be a disincentive for students to continue their education. And in fact, the Council's own report states that increased parental and care contributions are a barrier to students accessing post-16 education. These increased financial pressures will discourage learners from remaining in education, employment or training. The Council's own impact assessment states that low-income households will be more directly impacted by these changes, more evidence of the vulnerable being more at risk as a result of this budget. On Labour's watch, the budget deficit has grown to nearly £9 million. Schools' budget deficits have been allowed to increase to £10 million and reserves have been raided. This budget, other than attacking the vulnerable and looking to make a significant part of the workforce redundant, does nothing to address the underlying mismanagement of this administration. I will be voting against this budget.
Councillor Early.
Thank you, Chair. Once again, the Conservative group have failed the residents of North Tyneside by not putting forward an alternative budget. This failure is particularly abject in a mayoral election year when in just over 3 months' time, Councillor Bones seeks to become the Mayor of North Tyneside. But his offer to residents of North Tyneside is nothing more than a flimsy concoction of wild, uncosted spending promises made in leaflets to avoid scrutiny in this chamber. Were his promises to be implemented, they would surely bankrupt this council. By contrast, the Labour Council has put forward a balanced, prudent budget to continue its hugely successful record over the past 12 years of bringing jobs and businesses to the borough, regenerating our towns and villages, building affordable homes, providing outstanding social care and children's services, maintaining our cultural and leisure offer, expanding our network of family homes, and delivering on our environmental plan. I see that Councillor Bones has recently developed an interest in football. I would suggest that if this debate were a football match, the chant from the terraces would surely be, "Where's your budget, Councillor Bones?" As ever, when it comes to running an efficient, financially secure council, which meets the needs of the residents. The Tories have no plan, no budget and no idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Early. Councillor Samuel. Councillor Samuel.
Thank you, Chair. I was actually feeling I think I'd like to commend Councillor Wallace about all the contributions from the opposition this evening, because he's the only one that actually seems to demonstrate any comprehension of how the council operates and how its budgets will work. My overall disappointment, however, is simply that you don't seem to be wanting to talk about anything that's in the control of this council. You come up with your fantasy proposals. Your main fantasy proposal on roads and pavements would add 3.6% to the council tax if that was implemented. So I'm not surprised you didn't actually bring it forward as a budget proposal, because it would immediately knocked out. Your proposal to pay winter fuel allowance tax at council expense to all pensioners in the borough would increase the council tax by 6.4%. Your proposal for wardens, new wardens in every ward in the borough, would cost 0.6% in the council tax. And I'm not sure now whether or not you're still proposing to bring back the green bins free of charge, but that would be 2.2%. So without any costings or any proof of how you would do it, you've in your leaflet you're proposing a 12.8% increase in the council tax, and you haven't offered any suggestion of how you make these savings. If you're going to, I mean, the majority of the council budget is spent on social care, so you're going to cut back on social care to perhaps fund some of your unfundable promises. So overall, I'm sorry to mention the fact that you didn't bring forward a budget, Councillor Bones. I know you didn't think you would mention that, or you expect us to mention that and nothing else, but it's kind of important that if you want to provide a serious opposition, then and you want to vote against their budget, then you have to put forward one of your own to explain how you would make your fantasy proposals come true.
Chair, on a point of personal clarification, Councillor Samuels misconstrued what I said in my speech. Many of the pledges listed there aren't actual pledges from my campaign or nor from this side of the chamber. I think that the point that I would like to make clear is that this mayor and this cabinet are currently in charge of the council, and tonight we're here to approve their budget. It's nothing to do with opposition members. It's not our job to tell them how to do their job.
Councillor Bones, it was a point of personal.
Where's your budget?
Reason. Well, that's not what you really did there. You mentioned this main, this budget. It was.
I was clarifying my points earlier after Councillor Samuel misconstrued them.
Right. Okay. Well,
point of information, I wasn't misconstruing anything. I was explaining the consequences of your promises. If you're withdrawing your promises now, put a leaflet out, say it, and tell people that.
Councillor Samuel, thanks very much for your contributions. We now move to Councillor Newman.
Thank you, Chair. I was actually hoping not to come into this, but after some of the comments, I feel I've got to. First off, I'm not quite sure how hostile the Mauritius Islands are. I honestly don't think that's a thing they should bring up. But if we are going to talk about defence, I'll take no lessons from the Conservatives on defence and protecting this country. It was the Conservative government who, laid off thousands of soldiers after serving their country faithfully and honestly over 3 conflict zones. It was the Conservatives who have left equipment gaps all over the armed forces, leaving our Navy and Air Force at one of their smallest areas ever, as well as ammunition stores. So I'll take no lessons from the Conservatives on that. I was hoping that we would keep it on North Tyneside tonight. And look, in the 10 years I've been a councillor, we've always produced a balanced budget despite the immense pressure, the austerity obsession of the Conservative government put under us. And the group opposite have always refused to call for more support. Yet tonight they're all outraged because of the budget we've had to produce. And let's look at the budget. I don't think I can add anything to what Councillor Lott has said. But let's see what we've actually done with this budget. And if I can speak as the Armed Forces champion for a little bit, we've maintained our war memorials despite the misinformation that people seem to want to put out there. We've innovated, creating one of the best Armed Forces outreach services in the area, something that has been awarded the Gold Award, and we've supported a number of remembrance parades, all under the budget that we've produced. So I think we should all, congratulate the Mayor and the Cabinet for their incredible work under extreme circumstances, and we should just all vote in favour of this motion.
Councillor Newman. Councillor Hannah Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. This budget follows 14 years of cuts to vital services from the various Tory governments.
a huge financial black hole left by the previous Tory government, which a Labour government is now working to resolve, and around £500 million worth of Tory cuts directly to our council budget. Imagine if, in addition to that, residents had a Tory-run council as well. Councillors who simply want to bury their heads in the sand and not be honest with residents about hard choices that have to be made. This budget shows how the Labour Party in North Tyneside works to make sure the services used by all our residents will remain open and how we will retain additional support for the most vulnerable residents. Through being creative and also believing strongly in what's best for our residents, listening to their priorities, as a Labour-run council, we have been able to keep every single library and leisure centre open. We have continued to put an additional £1.5 million into keeping our borough clean and giving residents free bulky waste collections. This budget keeps investing an additional £2 million into our roads and footpath. And furthermore, having a Labour-run council is why we were able to get out of a contract with Capita signed by the Tories, which wasn't value for money for residents, and we can now start running our own highways team, improving efficiency and working smarter than we did before. As a council, we have also been able to put money in this budget to look into building a new household waste recycling centre in the northwest of the borough. The Labour Party in North Tyneside has ensured our incredible parks and astounding beaches are maintained as one of our crown jewels. We have declared a climate emergency and received national recognition in how we are reducing a carbon footprint. We have helped thousands through the Working Well hubs to find a job or gain training. We have regenerated our town centres and will continue to do so. We have built a new state-of-the-art sports facility at the St. Peter's Sports Club for everybody to use. And we have sorted a Tory-signed contract so residents have a highway service which is value for money and we control. A Labour-run council will always work to make sure North Tyneside is a great place to live, work and play, with some of the coolest and best areas to live in the UK according to national newspapers. The Labour Party in North Tyneside is energetic and we care about our residents, but questions have to be asked if the same can be said for our opposition. It is quite unbelievable that the group opposite, especially when one of them is asking residents to vote for them in May, have so little to say and so little interest in how the council spends the public money that they have not submitted not one critique of our budget, let alone any sort of full plan for our borough. Last year, they were the first opposition group to do this. This year, they are the first to then do it again the following year. By not even providing criticism of our budget, they are essentially saying that they couldn't do a better job than us. So what is the point in the opposition councillors? What they won't want to be said around why they failed to submit an alternative as well is that the Tories are well aware that everything they have told residents they will supposedly do so far is simply unaffordable. Submitting an alternative to our budget would be them admitting that they would bankrupt the council and leave residents without essential support and services. When they can't even say what they are actually going to do because they know it would lead to the council being bankrupt, how can they ask residents to trust them? It's simply shambolic and shows a total lack of respect for the public. As the Labour Party, however, we have brought forward a budget which supports the most vulnerable and shows we listen to our residents and their priorities. It invests in our borough and continues in improving our highway services. It provides more money for keeping our borough clean from litter and fly tipping and keeps our incredible leisure centres and library open and our beaches and parks looked after. I can only hope the opposition have a slight change of mind over the next few minutes and join us in voting as it seems for this budget, as it would seem they have no alternative. I'd also like to quickly thank council officers for their hard work and their advice as well, which is always invaluable during this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Hunter, did you indicate you wanted to speak? Janet Hunter.
Conservative governments have failed families and carers miserably for 14 years by neglecting adult social care and bringing it to its knees. It was well and truly broken by the Tory government. The system was starved of resources and was too focused on profit instead of delivery. Problem was particularly apparent in the workforce, with poor terms and conditions nationally, many providers only paying the minimum wage and the most basic sick pay. In June last year, Skills for Care showed that there were 152,000 vacancies in the care sector in England, one of the highest rates in the entire economy. And a cross-party House of Commons committee concluded that the Tory government had, and I quote, brought social care to its knees. We now have a government that is beginning to take responsibility for adult social care. This Labour government has already invested an additional £400 million into adult social care and an extra £86 million into the Disabled Facilities Grant. In North Tyneside, all this equates to an additional 6.3 million into the adult social care budget. And we're also in receipt of funding to build purpose-built accommodation for 4 people with severe learning disability or autism. These bungalows will support the transition of young people from children's to adult services, keeping them in the borough, so much better for them and financially for the council. So a win-win situation for everybody. Not only was it the Conservative government that failed people requiring adult social care, but locally, members opposite, who regularly question and challenge the Mayor's budget, but for several years haven't submitted a budget of their own, or even a critique, they've concentrated on telling everyone how they would improve North Tyneside with their uncosted vanity projects. £50 million into roads, wardens in every ward. And in recent years, not once in this chamber have I heard them saying we need more money for our very vulnerable residents. And whilst there were many motions requesting the Mayor to write to their government about a variety of issues, not once did they bring a motion to Council asking the Mayor to write and demand that their government sort out the failure of funding for adult social care. It's been left to this side of the chamber to find the money and to our incredibly dedicated and hard-working officers to ensure everything in their power is done to support the most vulnerable residents across North Tyneside, helping them to achieve their best lived lives. Chair, I will be supporting this budget.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. Are there any further members wishing to speak on? Oh, Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to support the Mayor and Cabinet budget proposals that just don't balance the books, but continue in providing the much needed services for our children, the vulnerable, the elderly, and all our residents, wherever they live in our borough. But you know, that's what this group, the Labour group, have consistently done, and recently since 2013, under the leadership of Mayor Norma Redfern. Even through the enforced Tory government cutbacks and the dark days of COVID, and more recently, the topsy-turvy leadership of the last government, we have worked to protect and deliver those much needed services and continue in the regeneration of North Tyneside to make it a better place for us all. Chair, I would like to just take this opportunity and highlight some of what is to be delivered in housing. Housing continues to face a number of challenges in common with the General Fund. In consultation with our tenants, we will continue to follow our long-term plan, seeking to invest in our council homes and services in a responsible and sustainable way, and to create more much-needed affordable housing through our new build programme that has seen over 2,300 new homes delivered in line with the Mayor's target of 5,000. As a responsible landlord, we will provide additional support to those tenants who need it, and we will protect our most vulnerable tenants. 2025 to 26 will see the final year of our Tenancy Sustainment Fund measures, which have seen a total of 3 million set aside within the plan. However, we are delighted to be able to mainstream some of the most successful elements in our long-term plan, including financial support to tenants and tackling damp and mould more effectively. Our plan includes investment of over 22 million of our new build projects over the next 5 years, as well as investing over 162 million to maintain our existing stock at a decent standard, and also our commitment to support our carbon net zero action plan. We've had over 20 apprentices who will complete their qualification throughout the year, and all of those who have completed their assessments have moved into permanent roles in North Tyneside. We have advertised and recruited 9 more apprentices. Moving back to our general budget, I would like to emphasise in bringing these budget proposals forward tonight, proposals that have been consulted on with our community, vetted by the council professional officers. We have been open and transparent and honest with our residents. But it's all about leadership, making and taking the tough decisions, facing them head on, not shying away from them. That is what we have been doing, facing them and dealing with them. Why? Because we believe in doing so is the right thing for our residents, to make North Tyneside a better place for us all. This is what we are doing and have been doing under the leadership of Mayor Norman Redfern, and Labour will continue to do so. Despite the jibes of those facing us, from the party facing us, and just to emphasise a little bit about that is, I recall a time when that party facing voted against and stopped free breakfasts for our children. And some of the comments that they made at that time, well, it's the parents' responsibility. That is my understanding of what was said at the time, and it's documented of what was said at the time. So I take nothing from the party opposite. We are proposing a budget that is for the benefit of all of North Tyneside. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Chair. In supporting this budget, I want to outline some of the things that we have done in this borough to develop our green credentials. We have continued to submit bids to government for funding, allowing us to decarbonise our public buildings, installing air source heat pumps into our hungry energy buildings, such as leisure centres, greening these much used buildings, and are following on with solar power and battery storage like at our depot at Killingworth. We continue to develop walking and safe cycling routes where space allows us to allow a modal shift in transport and increase health outcomes. We have planted over 13,000 trees in the borough, helping to absorb carbon, and are working on plans to increase biodiversity net gain and reducing emissions. We work in partnership with our external borough climate board, with our big companies to help tackle the climate emergency that we can see all around us. We are developing more green skills to meet the challenges and help our workforce into more and better jobs with a high skills base. The green transition is a sustainable pathway to help grow our economy in North Tyneside in a fair and a just way, whilst working towards net zero. Legislation is shifting the way we will collect and deal with our waste, and we are ready to meet that challenge, whilst further developing a recycle, reuse and repurposing circular economy. We continue to help our lower income households to insulate their homes and install air source heat pumps and solar with battery storage to move to a cleaner and greener energy source, whilst at the same time helping with fuel bills and poverty. We have still much to do, but have an ambitious plan and a determination to find our way through, to find grants and funds to serve our residents and provide the best we can with the resources we can find and the resources that we have. I commend this budget, the only one on the table, I am surprised and sorry to say, that is carefully balanced and legal, meeting all requirements for a better borough for all. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Graham. Councillor Carl Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm saddened once again that I sit in this chamber where the opposition have once again failed to be the opposition, failing to submit an alternate budget. But I probably shouldn't be surprised. The last time Councillor Wallace moved the budget, the Section 151 officer said it would bring about the question, the financial sustainability of the council. The last time the Tories moved the budget, it was for half a bin per ward, a 12 pence a week reduction in council tax, and selling off our airport shares at the lowest ebb just after the COVID financial crisis, which returned more to this borough since then than what they were going to get for selling them. It's a complete dereliction of duty and an embarrassment, showing they're not fit to run this borough. Instead, they choose to mislead residents in leaflets and on social media, claiming that they do something or they're against all manner of things that they have no idea how to pay for. Complete fantasy politics, not grounded in reality. What services are they going to cut to pay for all the promises? How many jobs are they going to cut? A considered estimate of the Tory spending pledges and what they're against add up to a requirement of 12.8% council tax increase. An embarrassment from the Tories, who have just come clean to residents that they have no idea what they're doing, how to run a council, other than the fact that bankrupted. The Labour government were never going to fix the mess the Tories left us in after 14 years of mismanaging the finances overnight. However, when the local government financial settlement came out in December, it was a pleasant surprise. Increased funding, beginning to address the unfairness in the local government finance system by prioritising need, with further commitment to multi-year settlements from next year, a positive start to reforming local government finances after the Tory mess. But it is in the context of 14 years of Tory austerity that we must consider this budget set against. We got almost 500 million to cut from our budget by the Tory government during Mayor Redfern's 12 years. The last time the Tories ran this council locally, they left it in a horrific mess. The massive failure of the outsourcing services to Capita and Andre, increasing council debt by nearly £200 million in 4 years, despite the pledge to reduce it. They left roads and pavements in the worst state they've ever been in, threatened to close libraries and leisure centres with endless rolling reviews, and divot and delayed on all manner of capital investment pledges. Despite this, Mayor Redfern and the Labour group have a record of delivering for this borough. A relentless focus of working with officers to deliver for our residents has meant we've been able to do many things. Protect the local council tax support scheme that reduces council bills for the 10,000 most vulnerable residents in this borough. Build 2,500 affordable homes with more planned. Introduce a poverty intervention fund. Bring thousands of jobs to the borough, including big companies like Accenture, Sage and Verisure choosing to base themselves here. Introduce work and well hubs that help thousands of residents struggling to find work. The highest recycling rate in the combined authority and significant carbon reductions right across the borough. Fly tipping and little hit squads invested millions into our Clean Up Neat Streets programme to clean up our estates. Over £150 million in the roads and pavements. Outstanding children's services in all areas. Outstanding youth justice area service. Investing in our award-winning beaches and parks. Fantastic adult social care with millions invested into our sheltered accommodation, extra care and respite facilities. Kept and invested millions into our leisure centres and libraries while councils around the country closed them or outsourced them to the private sector, and regenerated the award-winning Whitley Bay Seafront and started the regeneration of North Shields, Wallsend and the North West. This budget will allow us to continue this work and go even further in the next 4 years, finishing the regeneration of North Shields, Wallsend and the North West, £2.5 million a year in the roads and pavements, open a household waste recycling centre in the North West, significant investment in offshore skills and jobs at a time, invest further money in creating safer, cleaner, greener streets, £344 million capital investment programme to improve our borough, the largest programme of council and social rented house building since the introduction of the right to buy. This is the difference the Labour Party make when they run this council. It's why residents have consistently backed us over the last 12 years, and to do so again in May, we'll continue to deliver for the residents of this borough. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Mayor wishes to comment.
Just want to thank people, to be quite honest. I just want to thank our officers and my colleagues down here for bringing in a balanced budget. It has been extremely difficult. A few months ago, I didn't think we were able to do that, but with their hard work, we have done that. So thank you so much indeed. But I also want to say to our officers, don't get too despondent when you listen to some of this negative stuff that's said about this council. I actually go out every day in this borough. I visit lots of groups in this borough, and I have to tell you, the majority of our residents are very happy with what Labour has achieved in this borough. So don't get to the respondent.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Scargill.
Thank you. More nasty contributions from the party opposite, who seem to have forgotten that they're in charge. And if I hear oh, I wasn't going to say anything, but I'm so appalled by the Tories. If I keep hearing that, I'm just going to go mad. It's at every meeting and no one believes you. I think you always were going to say something. Once again, hard-working local people struggling with the cost of living, working extra hours.
Sorry, Councillor Scargill, can we have a bit of quiet, please, while you speak? Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Scargill.
Okay. Once again, hard-working local people struggling with the cost of living, working extra hours and going without, having to foot the bill for a budget that protects the mayor's luxuries, fails to address the huge pothole backlog and raises council tax to a record level. Labour promised to freeze council taxes this year. The party opposite are about to walk over those people who were told a vote for Labour would mean more money in their pockets, and it's the opposite. But the Labour Party will say anything to get into power. They'll throw working people under the bus, just like they threw the WASPy women under the bus. £2 million of council resources being used to protect pensioners from freezing to death after cruel cuts by the Labour Party, which had members joking about them croaking out before the next election and calling them terrorists, and being used to pay for national insurance hikes snuck in by a government who promised no tax rises on working people. It's clear to my residents that they would be better off if the country had not voted Labour last July. And it's even clearer why this Labour administration is particularly unpopular. Maybe after May, when she gives up the chauffeur-driven car, the mayor will start to see the world from the eyes of my residents. And maybe then she'll see the damage that this budget and every other one of her budgets has done to our borough. Thank you.
Chair, can I propose we move to give Councillor McMullen the right to reply and move to the vote, please?
Sorry?
Suppose we give Councillor McMullen the right to reply and move to the vote,
yes,
please.
Okay. Okay, it says there's no further speakers on this. We'll move to Councillor McMullen to give the right to reply.
Absolutely. I think I'm going to start with a little bit of a story just so we can understand how local government finance works. So imagine this is a situation. A resident posts on Facebook saying they're a bit too unwell, need someone to go out and buy themselves a newspaper. You visit their home, collect the £2, and they tell you to go and get a copy of the Evening Chronicle. So you go to the local paper shop, pay £1.85 for the paper, and then return back to the resident's house, giving them the 15p change and the paper. Now in that scenario, could you have bought sweets for that £2? Would it have been right to spend the 15p change on something for yourself? Or perhaps, don't think they want the Chronicle and give them the Daily Mail or the Guardian instead. Well, in that case, why do you believe that when your Conservative government were in power and gave us money to explicitly buy something like a bus station and build a bus station, it was our choice to spend on anything else other than that? Another key thing is, I addressed quite early on that we are investing in our CCTV camera system. None of you seem to have been able to adapt to change with that message and just read out what you came in with it before you start with. So to be really clear, we are investing in our CCTV camera systems. We are replacing 300 cameras, even more than that, because we've acquired some more since we brought the property services back in from Capita. And generally talking about that, Labour have ended the failing highways partnership signed for in the dying days of the last Conservative administration in North Tyneside. A contract that was rushed through, missing key outcomes for the residents of North Tyneside, adequate gully cleansing, lasting pothole repairs. Actually, the contract incentivised them not to fix them to last as well as they could, because they were paid on every visit. So it's something we've been able to bring back into local authority control. It's been back, 40-something days now? Gullies are cleaned, potholes are filled, government visits. It's going to take us a bit of time to recover ourselves to the standard we know our residents expect, but we will do this with innovation, better materials, better skills, not paying a profit margin to a corporation, and with a clear and guaranteed investment that's above the standard of national and regional funding. We're not in the art of declaring hypothetical sums of investment with no time frame and no delivery plan. We've talked about change, it was mentioned before. What would that change be? The libraries that were under constant review in 2013, 13 grass cuts a year, the Waste Recycling Centre for the North West, the Poverty Intervention Fund that we brought in, Would it be the airport shares? Would it be the cancelling of building houses, which was in the 2023 budget? Was it the removing of the climate change fund whilst saving money would have put a risk of the council of £4 million of operating costs in the street lighting? All those things that are protected, all those things that Labour is delivering for, we'll keep throwing percentages out because it denormalises it from people. We're talking about, for a Band D house, £1.60 a week. We've had that massive conversation about that. And I think for the £1.60 a week, we are delivering great value and great benefits for people to have the lives of their local environment the way they want to have it and have guaranteed services rather than things at a whim, things at a profit margin, and things where they may not necessarily get what they delivered with promises of exactly what's going to happen, rather than just random promises of things that you can't deliver because there's no funding behind it.
Thank you, Councillor McMullen. Can I remind Councillor McMullen and Councillor Scargill to move their correct seats before we go to the vote, please? Hear you to vote the wrong way, Councillor Scargill. Okay, we now go to the vote on the budget proposals from Cabinet. Can we open the vote, please?
We just thought we'd build some suspense.
Chair, is there some other way we could register a vote?
Yes, but we're just trying to get the system to start now. But if not, we will go to a named vote. So we will make a decision tonight. Frank will not have to go through it all again next week. We're just removing the people who've put their apologies in and left the room. Put that in. Sorry, they're working on getting the named vote sorted out at the same time that they're trying to fix the electronic one. So we're not just sitting about. As soon as it's ready, we will go. Okay, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to get the electronic voting system to work, sadly. So we're going to have to go to a named vote, and just to add to the issue, it won't be in alphabetical order. So you're all going to have to remember.
Chair, I'm going to do it from the seating plan, so it'll go in group order. That's the best way I can do it. So if I can start with the Conservative group, Councillor Bones, Councillor John Johnson, Councillor Jay Bartoli, Councillor Dave Lilly, Councillor Ian McAlpine, Councillor Scargill, Councillor Peter Early, Councillor Janet Hunter, Councillor John Harrison, Councillor Willie Samuel, Councillor Anthony McMullen, Councillor Matthew Thurlaway,
sorry, apologies. Councillor Sandra Graham, Councillor Carl Johnson, Councillor Hannah Johnson, Councillor Stephen Phillips, Councillor Eddie Dark, Councillor Joan Walker, Councillor Martin Murphy, Councillor David Drummond, Councillor Sarah Day, Councillor Julie Day. Oh, sorry, apologies. Yep. Councillor Tom Bailey, Councillor Andy Newman, Councillor James Webster, Councillor Josephine Mudzingwa, Councillor Louise Marshall, Councillor Ian Grayson, Councillor Tricia Neera, Councillor Andy Holdsworth, Councillor Joel Kerwin, Councillor John O'Shea, Councillor Jane Shaw, Councillor Jim Montague, Councillor Linda Dark, Councillor Louise Bell, Councillor Tommy Mulvanna, Councillor Kristen Knott, Councillor Brian Burdis, Councillor Rebecca O'Keefe, Councillor Bruce Pickard, Councillor Joanne Sharp, Councillor Paul Bunyan, Councillor Brian, Councillor Sarah Burtonshaw, Councillor Charlie Gray, Councillor Tracy Hallway, Councillor Wendy Lott, Councillor Frank Lott, I've got Councillor Wallace as well, Councillor Steve Cox, Councillor Nigel Huscroft, the elected mayor. $43,400.
Okay, everyone, the result was 42 for, 7 against, so the budget is carried. As the budget and council tax has now been approved, the council meeting provisionally scheduled for the 27th of February 2025 will no longer be required. So that concludes the business of tonight's meeting. And can I just thank you all for your attendance this evening and thank you for getting through the business so well. Thank you very much.